Alright.
I don't care. Go ahead, I'm listening. I record you.
Yes. Alright. So today is the 26th of April, and I'm going to be talking about how children's affect in growing in a domestic abusive household. So, one of the reasons why I picked this topic is because I'm very familiar with this. Uh, Obviously, it's not obvious to most people, because as you grow up in one of those households, you learn how to mask a lot of things. So, speaking of which, let me tell you a little bit about a story. Just imagine there's a little boy, and he walks out of his room, and all he can see is his mom on the floor with blood, his sister crying, and his dad standing over him.
Down.
All he can think about was getting between his dad and protecting his sister and his mom, wiping the blood off her face, and just seeing that and trying to deal with it. Now, that's not something any child of any age should have to deal with, but thinking about it, he was 8, and that was my brother. There is a lot of issues that come with domestic abuse that a lot of people in regular society doesn't understand. There are multiple different types of abuse, and there's also multiple different effects it could have on the child that's involved or the person who's actually being abused, the victim. Now, I want to talk about some of the things where we fall short on in society when we're trying to handle these situations, the effects that it has on the victims and their children, and also what we can do to kind of mitigate between just figuring out how to fix this problem and actually helping the people. So, first I want to talk about what do we know as domestic abuse. We know husband beating wife, wife beating a husband, child abuse, we know those things. But there's verbal, there's financial, there's also mental. Different ways of abuse has different effects. Same thing as different people have different reactions to those abuse. Now, a lot of these things can be hidden due to the social norms that these people live with, along with dealing with the negative feelings that come with living in this abusive relationship. They have to worry about their social norms. How will people look at them if they leave this person? How will people look at them if they walk around with a black eye or a bloody nose? What would their kids do if they left that person and they raised them by themselves? They wouldn't understand. In these situations, a lot of people would try to cry out for help in one way or another. There's always different types of ways. Some people might not be as up front, but some people might just scream it out. Now, speaking on that, it brings me to some sad cases that I found throughout my research. In my research, I found that in 2021, there was a major recommendation letter given to the UK United Forces, aka the police department, the Naval Academy, the gunners in the United Kingdom, where there was over 150 different cases of women reporting abuse from a police officer and it getting ignored, along with a specific case where it was a tall, young black female, and they looked at her and said, "How could he do that to you? Why would you let him do that to you?" These are the things that the victims and the people who are affected by it have to deal with on a daily basis. Along with only police departments, in my personal life, when you're only 4 or 5, maybe even 8, and you see your mom getting beat to a bloody pulp in front of police, and they say, "You have to get out, it's his house, and then we have to live under a bridge for the night," it makes you think that nobody cares about your life. Nobody gives any thought to how these children and how these women are being treated, all because of these specific things. Now, when I look back and I remember the face of those police officers and I think about it, and they just looked me dead in the eye and said, "You are the problem, you need to leave." And my dad's hands were covered in my mom's blood. It made me lose all faith in the police department, in any kind of judicial system. And I don't want that for my children. Now, in a final case, we also need to understand how this affects the victims and the child. In long-term effects, depending on how this child is raised, whether it starts in the beginning of their life, the middle of their life, or in their teenage years, it can affect either your anxiety, you have PTSD, and you can easily start introverting yourself and having more social anxiety. We now live in a society where those are the norms. Everybody's used to, oh, I have this trauma. No, I have this trauma. It's a type of conversation starter, similar to how's the weather. And this is a situation where I don't see a good outcome from. We make a light joke out of this, and it becomes something that we don't pay attention to. We'll be bystanders in this situation. The best possible situation is if we take a holistic approach and treat these people one by one. The perpetrators need to be put through certain therapies in their incarceration. The victims need to go through extensive therapies. The children have to go through extensive therapies. All because they have the same traumas as somebody who's been in a war. Now, after I've spoken over those things, I really believe that as of now, me and my audience would have a similar thought process after thinking about it. When it comes to these types of situations, and you think in the future, if that was my child, if that was me, would I want somebody to put their hand out, or would I want them just to look at me and be like, it's life?
You want me to answer that? Let me answer that question.
And
Oh.